Bienvenidos and welcome a Cositas Mommy Never Told Me, a podcast that dives deep into the Latin cultural norms that have long haunted the feminine genre. Móntate and buckle up porque it's going to be a roller coaster ride. ¡Nos fuimos! Rocio, you wanna give a couple of juicy questions, or
I'm about to.
Childhood?
So I was gonna use that to pivot because
here comes the Rocio questions. This is a double shot now.
So I want to pivot because we've talked about your career and about what you've done, and I think people are have gotten a little sense of you as a person, as a man. You're married, your 2 kids, blah blah. But I wanted to kind of tap into, obviously, a big film that was a blockbuster hit that you did was Think Like a Man, with tons of actors, tons of, people. But Think Like a Man became kind of like a cultural phenomenon with the book and with the movies and blah, blah, blah. This podcast, as I explained to you offline, it's like it was born from conversations with me and Diana that we had with each other, heavy conversations. And we were like, damn, like, I wonder if women are really having these conversations, like honest and transparent. And a lot of the feedback we get is women, and it's not even this podcast, it's women in general. When women get together, and I've had it happen with me. Shayla is a great friend of yours. She's your kid's godmother. She's one of my
always. Yes.
But so Shayla, for instance, is hugely successful, right? And we get together, me, her, with and I bring this up as an example. It's like, it's us, and it's like women who are running companies and Google and blah, blah, blah. And we always end up talking about men. And then I get together with another group of girlfriends who are teachers, state workers, blah, blah. We always end up talking about men. So all that being said, we have you on the show. You are Michael Ealy. You are a man. You participated in this movie. So I need to pick your brain about male perspective on certain things.
And although you don't think you're a heartthrob, you are.
What a preface.
He's on.
You are a heartthrob.
So
hold on. Let me put on the eye patches one more time.
But on the badges. So I got a bunch of questions, but I want to add, so something like,
can you take me seriously when I do this, by the way?
I never took you seriously. So question, and this is all your opinion. Obviously, Michael is not a specialist in men, blah, blah.
Right.
So what are your thoughts? Would you get into a relationship with a woman you had sex with on a first date?
Would I get into a relationship?
Would you be open to getting into a relationship with a woman that you had sex with on a first date?
Just getting into a relationship?
Like, is sex on a first date taboo? Is that something where you're like, nah, that's not?
No, who the hell on? No, fuck no. It's perfectly fine. We're adults. Yes.
Okay. So can you make a hoe a housewife?
Can you make a hoe a housewife? I think to a certain extent, anything is possible. Anything is possible. The real question is, would a hoe ever want to be a housewife?
Oh, trust me. They all want to be wives.
They all want to be a housewife.
But I asked this question because
wait, what does that mean? They all want to be housewives. What does that mean?
Because they all want to be taken care of. Trust.
We know some hoes.
It's happening. In big numbers, it's happening.
In big numbers?
It's happening.
Okay.
Like not only, I mean, I'm not going to point anyone out in the industry because it's or fuck it, I will. Like,
Oh shit.
I don't care the little podcast that could. Like Larsa Pippen was with Scottie Pippen. She been out here pimping herself. Now she with Michael Jordan's son. He's wifing her. He don't care what his father or anybody got to say. There's rumors about a lot of people, and I'm just talking about entertainment people because they're recognizable, but
Allegedly.
These women have dated, and men are continuously, I want to know what's in the minds of a man who is like putting their bid in to make this hoe a housewife.
Yeah, that's a good question.
He's like, well,
I mean, you know, as the Biggie lyric goes, the head right, Biggie there every night. Right? I don't know. I honestly, like, you know, I obviously I didn't marry a hoe, so I can't.
Right, he can't answer that question.
That I could speak to what makes somebody want to marry one. But yeah, I mean, what I will say is I think there's an interesting conversation to be had from this. And for me personally, I remember learning at a certain point that a woman, no matter how successful, wants the option to check out. There's certain women who want to be taken care of from start to finish. There's certain other women who want to do them, right? They want to build their career. They want to do this. They want to have their own shit. They want to do all that stuff. But they still want the option to be like, I want to be a housewife.
Yeah. And when I say housewife, I mean marry. So wife up, because we just recorded an episode called The Soft Girl Era. And it's very much like what you're saying, that what our generation, or what we're finding, and it's obviously a broad statement, is that, you know, women, and Nia Long said it in her interview with Jeezy. She's like, I just don't understand why women have to be so tired. We are tired because it's like, it's almost like you want to have your professional life, you want to have all these things, blah, 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 but you're running into this new era of man who forces you to also be in your masculine in your personal life. And it's like, it's almost like we were raised to be so independent that it's like backfired now, because you're like, bitch, I'm tired.
You said it, not me. I mean, I think there is you know, if you look at the history of marriage, obviously you can go back to its inception and what it was for and what was understood in terms of the roles, right? Like if you look at those roles, you know, the woman was the homemaker and the man was the hunter and provider. What has happened is the two have merged, and now, you know, sometimes what I'm hearing, I'm not putting it out there and saying this is a fact, but what I'm hearing is it is not easy to not only physically have children, start to raise them, and still do the providing thing, like to do it all. And I feel like there was a huge push that women could do it all. And now you hear everybody starting to kind of backtrack off of that a little bit and say,
because they tired.
Yeah, like I don't want to do it all. You know what I'm saying? I need a partner. I need help. I need this. You know what I mean? It's like,
because I'm exhausted.
Yeah. And I don't know if that has affected. I wish I could say that's categorically affected men in a way that makes them harder to pick, right? Like it's harder to pick a guy who can accept a woman that that really understands what she wants, right? And what I have discovered in my marriage is that my wife wants first refusal.
Mm.
First refusal is a term in my business. So, like, if I was working on a Netflix show, I'm sorry, if I had an overall deal with Netflix, the studio, Netflix wants first refusal over whatever project I bring to them before I take it to Max, Peacock, whatever, right?
Right.
So as long as we're clear on that, what I've found is that, man, this worked through therapy with wifey. This worked out. Like, she wants first refusal. And that goes across the board. Like, if she wants to work, great. She wants support in that. If she doesn't want to work, great. She wants support in that. If she wants to go and do, like, if I get invited to, like, I don't know, the print, like, to an event, she wants me to ask her and give her first refusal to say, I don't want to go or I do want to go.
Right.
And I feel like we just kind of got to get that understanding out of the way and understand that there is no, like, clear line of delineation where it's like, yo, this is who I am and this is who I am. This is where the partnership and the teamwork comes into play. And you have to understand, I think as a man now, you have to understand what I had to come to understand, which is just give them first refusal. Just give them first refusal. Like, let them choose for themselves. Like, I think that, and you can tell me if I'm right, but would that work for you? Would you like it if a man was like, man, woman, whatever, your partner was like,
Right.
you know, give me the option to say no or yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know
No,
what I mean? It's not
I,
like I'm obligated to do it. You know
yes.
what I mean? But I'm also
I think
not
that,
being kept hidden from doing
yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
But you spoke to a lot of things there. You said but obviously you've been married a long time. You're older, so you mentioned a lot of keywords like partnership and therapy and learn and this and that. So it's like, obviously our listeners are in different spaces in their relationships, but it's like first right of refusal works in a marriage, as you mentioned, in my opinion as well. But my question to you, and to piggyback on the therapy thing, is, do you think that that's something that you discovered through therapy, or do you think that that's something that you discovered pre-therapy? Because to piggyback on that, we also find, excuse me, that especially for our brown Latino men, therapy is like very taboo. We had a whole episode on therapy as well, and it's like it's a very taboo thing to tap into. Like really
Like,
address.
I ain't crazy. I don't
Right,
need no therapy.
right.
Oh, oh God, you guys, listen, here's the thing. I remember feeling the same way. Uh, I remember feeling the same way. And that is, I remember thinking that Jesus could fix everything, right? Like, that's how I was raised. Jesus can fix everything. Uh, and so I remember just, my whole philosophy was just pray on it before I met my wife. My wife actually introduced me to therapy. And I remember thinking, I don't see why. So the good thing about my wife is that she's introduced me to a couple of different things that I didn't know existed. And so when I first went to therapy, I was just like everybody else. I was like, I don't see why I'm here. I don't see why I got to do this. And in doing
Wrong with me?
it, within the first session, I was like this. Oh, okay. Okay. So I was blessed to have somewhat of a Huxtable upbringing, right? Two-parent household, mother and father that loved each other. So I thought, what's wrong with me, right? I'm good. And so what I learned from going to therapy with my wife was, although she had the polar opposite of what I had in terms of her upbringing, what was great about therapy was that through the therapist, I found common ground with her. Through the therapy, I found compassion for her and a deeper understanding that she's not going to think the way I think because of her background, because of her upbringing. I think we go into these relationships, whether they be marriages or just loving relationships, and we expect this person to process and think of decisions the way we do.
Right.
We don't open ourselves up. And you know this, if you've been married long enough,
Oh, yeah.
open yourself up to the way in which your spouse, your partner thinks. It forces you to do it. Like,
Absolutely.
you can run from it all you want, but you will learn. You will learn that you have to take them into consideration, and you have to take into consideration over time what it is, where they're coming from. The common phrase in our relationship was, if the shoe was on the other foot, what would you do? All of a sudden, I'm thinking, okay, step outside of myself and think about why she would look at this situation this way. And that, I mean, look, I'm not saying I always got it right, but there is growth in that. And I think there is an understanding in that. And I think for me, you know, for anybody, especially the guys out there who are worried about therapy, and I had to convince a few of the exact same thing that you're talking about. What you can't do is say no to something you haven't experienced.
Right.
So until you get in there and you've done it 3 or 4 times, I think you just kind of bitching out a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I think you have to try it as a man. Just you have to try it. Forget what's the taboo. I mean, what's really taboo about it? You almost like nobody looks at getting a lawyer during a divorce as taboo.
Right.
But if you don't, the option is the lawyer will come in and decide how you're going to break up. The judge will decide how you're going to break up. So either which way you look at it, there's going to be someone else who's a mediator and or decider of how your relationship is going to end. And so you can go to therapy and start to try and understand how he or she is thinking. Or you can go to court and have a judge tell you how this is going to go.
Damn.
So you said something about the other, I mean, seeing the other foot, right? Seeing the shoe on the other foot.
The shoe on the other foot, yeah.
The term that resonates in our marriage is, if you don't listen, you're going to feel.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right? Because usually, and I found this not just in my current marriage, we've been together over 20 years, but when I was younger, I was sort of like, I was a little pimp. And I really thought like a man. I grew up around a lot of dudes, my cousins, and a lot of guys. I grew up around basketball, so I was always on the basketball court. I was at the Y, always playing basketball with dudes. So I had no other choice but to get around this and be like, oh, so this shit work for y'all? I'm gonna work this on y'all then. This is what's gonna happen.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I find that most women from New York have a lot of male energy.
I'm not from New York. I'm from Connecticut, but it's close enough.
Okay.
East Coaster.
East Coast.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an East Coast.
I do think East Coast, and Diana also grew up in a very urban neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I think it's the East Coast mix of like urban neighborhood vibe for sure.
Yeah.
You call it urban? I thought it was the ghetto.
Ghetto. I'm being
It was the ghetto for me.
I'm being politically correct. I am being inclusive
Right.
of all people. Isn't inclusivity a word?
No,
That's
but
not why we here, Roxy. That's not why
Oh,
we here.
she grew up in the hood, in the projects, my dude.
No, but I say all that to say that I was able to see that men or guys they understand more when they feel. Like, you can't tell them, you could beat a dead horse and be like, nah, you could, no, bring me out, no, bring me out, no. Oh, I got to have somebody else bring me out so that you can see that and feel it. Okay, so
Yeah.
so that was something
There's a thing with guys where it's a lot harder for us. I know guys who are like, I think men are too soft these days. I know women who think there are men who are too soft.
Oh, going back to soft girl era. It's a huge conversation right now where women are like, it's not just that I'm tired of being tired. It's that when you out there, you're like, but fuck, these dudes out here is more feminine.
Yeah, but we talked about it on the last episode. I was dating this guy. It was the first guy that I had dated that wasn't like hustling, that wasn't like a thug dude. Like, he had a corporate job, and I was like, okay, I'll pull me a corporate dude. He got a house, he got a whip, right? We at the club, he's buying everybody drinks, whatever. I was like, I got me a winner, right? So going back to my cousins and my family, we grew up in an area where, if one of us fights, we all fight. You know what I'm saying? So if something's popping off in the back right corner of the club, I'm gonna go see what's popping, right? So he's like, Diana, we have to go. And I was like, okay, lose my number. He was like, but you're gonna get arrested. I was like, lose my number, you punk. Okay? You got to come and fight with me. No, but so it's not just now. That shit was back in 1994 too.
Yeah. That story right there encapsulates what it was like growing up in like the 80s and 90s. I remember this, and I remember wanting to do a project about this at some point, but like, and I can talk about it now because I'm not going to do it, but
you should do it. I'll help you.
I remember when I was growing up, the dudes who got the baddest girls were drug dealers, or maybe just like star athletes, right? So like all the girls went towards the dudes who were bad, quote unquote bad, the drug dealers.
Yeah.
Bad, or somewhat narcissistic in terms of being, athletes who had it all, right? But nobody was thinking long term.
Nope.
High school, right? So what happens is you get to college, and immediately half of those dudes drop off, if not more. Half of those dudes drop off. You get to college, and let's be honest, most girls go to college more than most guys. So when you get to college, the girls always outnumber the guys.
100%.
When you get to college is when, girls start putting that bad boy shit behind them, right? Mm. And tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I saw. They start putting that bad boy shit behind them. And what they really want when they're freshmen and sophomores is the upperclassmen, right? They want the seniors or the juniors, right? And then by the time you become a senior in college, and you're like, oh, so what's next? Get into the real world, and you like are way beyond the drug dealers and the dudes that want to fight in the club and all this other shit. You like way behind that. And you start getting into the dating pool, and you start to look for people who are just like you, maybe starving artists, maybe this, maybe that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then around late 20s, early 30s, it's like corporate job, stability. I need I need stability long term. I need a motherfucker who's going to give me that first refusal. I need somebody who's going to like allow me to kind of be me. I need somebody. So, and if I'm wrong, please tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this is the trajectory that most women post 89 have had to kind of take in terms of the roles of women in society shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Female politicians. We got a female vice president, which was unfathomable.
A Black female vice president.
On top of that, like this was just not even fathomable when I was born. So like, there are kids who are growing up and seeing that as the norm, right? They're seeing women working as the norm, and they're seeing, you know, women working and being moms as the norm. And it feels like everybody right now is almost kind of in a state of in flux, right? Like everybody's trying to figure out, who am I? What do I have to offer? And how can I meld this with somebody else so that we can build a brand, an empire, a family, you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to put so much stuff together, and there's the pressure of these fucking things.
Yes. Yes.
These things bring to our lives, and how people be laying in bed at night doing this instead of sitting there and talking to your partner, instead of sitting there and figuring life out together. And so, in many ways, I feel like we've grown apart from each other. In many ways, I feel like we have to find a place of understanding. We have to start looking at, that's why for me, it worked out to put the shoe on the other foot. Because when I got a full understanding in therapy, the way my wife was able to open up in therapy, I saw her say things she could never say to me. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, that helped. So this is what I'm saying to the brothers out there. Look, you're going to learn. You're going to learn. Like, it will happen to you.
Come closer. Say that again. Say that again.
You will learn who she is through therapy. You will learn who she is, what she wants, things that she might not be able to express. And at the same time, quite honestly, the more you do it, the more you might start expressing or feeling comfortable expressing things that you want out of life.
And then the more you'll get too. The more you'll get.
Exactly. And then the more you'll get as a collective from that experience. Anybody I know who says we just got engaged, I'm like, ooh, okay. So listen, what you should do before you set a date is start couples counseling now. Do that now, because what you don't want to do is get married, have the law involved, and then realize, oh, you believe that children should walk around barefoot everywhere. Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Or your kid, or I don't want my kid to be immunized. But then one of them does.
About these kinds of things.
It's so many crazy.
Like the haphazard way in which people get married and don't ask the most important
question. Well, that was one of the things that we had in our and I'm gonna get a little nasty, Michael. Okay, that was one of the things that we had on our podcast.
Good. I'm glad you're transitioning to nasty, because I have one.
No, because a lot of the things that I found myself in these conversations that we were having, as Rocio said, was that women were saying, well, he wants me to give him a blowjob, and I don't do that. And I was like, so why the fuck are you in a relationship with him if that's one of his top 3 things? I don't understand. If he's going to be expecting that and he wants that, and you're not going to do the American Idol, then imagine he's going to go get it somewhere else. He's going to go somewhere else to get a snob, the slob and the knob or whatever. So yeah, I just needed to say that.
But I agree. It's various levels of conversation that people don't have. You know,
right? The silliest shit.
Shit that you're like, oh, why would we talk about that? Like that shit matters.
It
I
does
have
matter.
a whole new appreciation for this podcast because I learned from this podcast what the American Idol is. I mean, we could drop
When your kids are little, you have to come up with code names.
That I have never heard that before. I thought I heard every euphemism for a good job in my life, and now I just got the American Idol. I mean, damn, that is absolutely amazing. Yes,
but you get what I'm saying, right?
Not only do I get what you're saying, like I fully understand, like the way people wake, like a marriage will force you to wake up. Right? Like it'll force you to wake up, good or bad. It's going to force you to wake up. And, you don't want and then not only a marriage, marriage will force you to wake up, but children, having children and looking at how you want to raise them. One of the coldest lessons I've learned in terms of raising a child is understanding that that child cannot be raised the way that I was. It's impossible.
Yes.
But it's so natural for us as parents to look at our children and say, well, I'm just going to do what was done to me.
Yep.
And Michael, you say that
out loud.
You say that
out loud.
You say that coming from a whole home with a healthy mother and father who loved each other. So
I wasn't abused. Yeah.
Right. So and not even abused. You had like the picture of what it is that you aspire to be, So imagine, I know for me with a single mom and a dad with schizophrenia coming in and out. So it's like, can you imagine if that's what I use as my meter to now raise my daughter?
Or my mom used to fucking bring my dad to get groceries for him and his fucking mistress. And I was in the car. So it's like, when are you going to divorce this man?
Yeah.
And it finally happened, right? But if I start thinking about like all the struggles and stuff, my mother had to go through so much stuff by herself to get us, number one, out the hood, then to get us into a house where we couldn't sleep for the first week, by the way, because we were so used to the sirens and shit. But anyways, but in the way that she did, it was almost like survival mode. So I can't, 100%. You know what I'm saying? And with my first two little ones, I did that. But now with my husband, with my last two, because I have 4 kids, we are a posse when we come into the house. But so it's different. It was different once I found my partner, and I was like, you got to accept these 2 kids. That was my deal breaker. Like I dealt with some dudes, and I didn't introduce anybody to my sons unless I knew I was going to be in a relationship with them, because I was like, absolutely not. They're not going to see a trove of men coming through and calling them uncle, whatever. Nah, they didn't know anybody. So that was very important for me to do. And once we got together, then we formed a partnership, and I told them about how I was raising them, and we got in sync. And with the partnership, like that is so important to me. That's why there's so many kids out here now, just like you said, just roaming the earth, but they're not roaming the earth with focus like you were. They're roaming the earth like on some, I don't know what the fuck am I doing, like you said with this.
And not just kids. There's
adults. Yeah,
there's grown adults. There's people who have been, and look, it's great to have a focus, but there's also people who, quite frankly, have had focus, got the career that they wanted, and now they're unhappy because they kind of peaked. You know what I mean? Like there's people who just was like, yo, I know people who was like, yo, I'm pre-med, then I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they got to be doctors, and they're like,
what now?
Yeah, what now? Not really enjoying this. You know what I'm saying? And because they didn't expose themselves to anything else other than their focus and their dream of that whole way, they're now like kind of lost because they've got this career. And I think it was Michelle Obama's book um, was really helpful in terms of understanding that the idea that she, was so focused on being, a lawyer and why she wanted to be a lawyer and all these other things, and she was just a straight laced student and all these other things, and it was in dating Barack Obama that she kind of was like, hmm, his whole kind of laissez-faire approach to things kind of opened her up to realize that there was more to life than just
Mhm.
straight A's. There was more
Mhm.
to life than this just kind of like zeroing in on being something and becoming that. And it was like, I could be more than that. I
Mhm.
could be more than what I ever wanted to be.
Right.
Um, it's just, and it's kind of a lesson in two things. One, exposure and focus, right? Like you got to find, like my wife and I always talk about exposing our kids to different cultures, different countries, different things, so that they look at the world. I don't, it's a cliche term, but they look at the world as their oyster as opposed to the neighborhood, right? And
Mhm.
so I feel like where I grew up, a lot of cats, just kind of, when I grew up in Maryland, so a lot of cats just kind of grew up, stayed in Maryland, did their thing, still in Maryland. You know what I mean? They go other places. They don't necessarily go overseas a lot, but they go other places domestically, and that's fine. Um, but I feel like if I can give my kids a little bit more, if I can give my kids a little bit more exposure than what I had,
Mhm.
that to me is a fair rite of passage.
Mhm.
I think when you again going back to what I said about I can't I woke up one day and realized I can't raise my son the way I was raised. He is not me. I needed what I got. He needs what he needs.
Mhm.
And these are two separate things,
Mhm.
and I think there was a fear from my wife oftentimes about, you know, um, our kids not getting certain things, and I would have to be like, look, you're 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 looking through a lens that is your childhood.
Mhm.
The thing that my father could be firm with me and loving. And so when you see me get really firm with Rakim, you're worried that I'm, he's going to be traumatized like you were. And I get that. I get that. But what he's getting that you didn't get is that loving side of that,
Mhm.
that is, you know, affectionate, that takes him on boys' trips, that, you know, makes sure that he does all the things that he wants to try.
Mhm.
And, it's not just one way. Like you have to find balance. You have to give discipline and you have to give hope. And I think all of that can be um, done. And what I'm saying is, and I don't always get it right, but what I have learned is that this is what I should aspire to do.
Mhm.
This is what I should aspire to do. I wake up and try to be this, and I fail many nights, but because kids, whoo, mm,
Wait till they start driving. Wait till they start driving.
I mean, it's a whole different thing. But like, it's a whole different level. But at the same time, they teach you so much about who you are,
Mhm.
who you want to be.
And they need that meter too, though, Michael. They need that. Oh, when dad is like this, he's not fucking around. You know what I'm saying? Or when dad is like this is the love and the thing that's them learning the love that they're gonna be giving. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
there's balance.
mhm.
There has to be balance. I think if you witnessed an extreme version of family, which is completely dysfunctional and abusive and everything else, it's hard for you to
Mhm.
look at any kind of discipline or if somebody raises their voice and you think, oh my God, that's triggering.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but it was effective.
Right.
And I'm gonna kiss him before I say goodnight.
Right.
It was effective. I just need you to find that balance. So I can't say it. I mean, I've never been in a more um, what's the word, reciprocal relationship than the one I'm in now, in terms of, trying to give and give
Right.
and get. Um, and family does that. I think in a lot of ways, family definitely does that, and it's hard. It's hard for people. I remember about 3 years into my marriage realizing, wow, there's more people that grew up different than me.
Oh, fuck.
Mhm.
Ever thought, like, than I ever, ever, ever thought.
Yeah.
Like, it was because, I got a lot of boys from my neighborhood, and we all kind of grew up the same. And most of them had, doctors who went, doctors for fathers who went to, Howard University for medical school and all these other things and blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, like, we all had dads, and it was like crazy because when I got to college, I realized, well, that wasn't accurate, or that wasn't reflective of the real world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, like, and in meeting my wife and realizing how she came up, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think there's more people that could relate to what you've been through than to what I have been through in
Yeah.
terms. And again, this all comes through by listening in a therapy session.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Communication. I'm telling you.
put yourself in that, and you put yourself in that situation. Um, it is a safe place to open up, and your spouse or your partner. And I'm saying this to all the fellas out there: your spouse or your partner will open up in a way that you never imagined, and that can only help you. And
Mhm.
that's what you got to look at: is how is this going to help us, help me?
Don't take it the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not soft for talking to somebody about it, and I'm not a Christian.
Right.
So, it doesn't affect my love of Jesus to kind of work these things out, because
Right.
we humans are totally different.
Michael, before we close, and unless Diana has another, or do you want to
No,
ask?
you had some nasty questions.
I did, but Michael gets too deep and serious, and he doesn't. I need him to keep it light. You know what I'm saying?
No, I like the deepness.
I gotta go take a shit.
He kept it real light. He got to do a deuce.
I gotta go drop a deuce. How's that for keeping it light?
I want to ask two questions, and then Diana can ask the question we ask everyone at the end of the episode. But I want you to step into Michael before therapy, before
Okay.
marriage,
Be
before.
raggedy.
I
Yeah.
want you to be like, you know what I'm saying?
Like, were you a hoe? Were you a hoe? Yes or no? Were
Exactly.
you a hoe in New York?
Yes. But
Okay.
Great.
I would like to say, in my defense, I was a very honest hoe.
You told people I'm
Let's
out
go.
here going.
I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, because we have a friend
I
that he has.
I
We
would
have
straight
a.
up say, you ain't the only one. I'm just putting it out there.
See, you see,
You ain't the only one.
there are women that do not mind being on a roster. I am telling you, they do not mind being a part of a roster.
You ever been to Atlanta?
What? All right, so listen. Do you believe that an affair could end in real love?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know when a man is just not into you?
I think that's generational. And I say that because this generation is all, you communicate through a device. And the same way in which you can criticize somebody on Twitter is the same way in which you talk to the person you love, that's a problem. I'm of a generation where you had to work for that shit. You had to like I remember somebody was talking about being in a club and everybody has a phone. And I haven't been in a club in years, but apparently everybody has a phone up now. And it's just, taking it all into consideration. I remember going to clubs and you had to work to get a number. To get a number.
You had to work with those eyes? So you didn't just do this? You didn't just
I told you, Mikey. Michael's corny. He corny.
I had to work so hard for so long because I didn't, regardless of the fact that I had, blue eyes, it was also like, it just like girls that wasn't enough. You know what I mean?
Wasn't enough. You weren't like.
Yeah. And quite honestly, like this is my trauma. If I have some trauma to express in this podcast, is during the 90s, I was out of style.
Oh, that's true.
Oh.
So the minute I got to college, I left high school.
No, it was like a whole thing. It was like I'll be sure. Da, 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 da.
I never thought I'll be sure was like hot.
Tyson,
but it was like the light skinned boys went through their era, and then it was
Tyson,
not about life.
Motherfucking Beckford
Ruined it for y'all ladies.
Wesley Snipes,
and he was an asshole. Oh,
Michael Jordan, like these guys.
The guy, what's his name? The guy in Madonna's video.
Janet Hansu? Was he in Madonna? Or was that Janet Jackson's video?
No, that was Janet Jackson. But the guy who did Like a Prayer with Madonna, chocolate.
But it gotta be chocolate with lotion or oil because you can't be that ashy chocolate. I'm sorry. if you chocolate, you can't be ashy.
Yeah. Like the 90s was probably my favorite decade in terms of decades, just in general. Mm-hmm. In terms of music, culture, everything else.
Everything.
I was like, I had to put in work. I never really prided myself on having game or anything like that, which is probably why I became an actor, because through a script, you just have game. Like, I remember
it wasn't just men, Mike. It wasn't just men, because back in the day, I didn't have the ass that I have now, right? I was skinny as fuck. I had no titties. So I had to make people laugh. That was the way. I would have to cook for them and make them laugh. And then be like, oh, yo, you're pretty dope. And I'm like, fuck, that took a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit.
Yeah. And I don't know what people are going through now, but like the dating apps and stuff like that. Like I couldn't do it. I don't want to deal with it.
People gotta swipe, and
it's like a whole different realm. So for me, it's like, yeah, like if I'm feeling you, I'm gonna come at you with everything I got. Personally, like I'm going to show up at your job. Not creepy, but like show.
I was gonna say, wow.
Not like the perfect stranger.
And like, I know, right? Yeah, it's going to perfect guy mode. But like, I'm gonna show up in a romantic way. You know what I mean? Like, and it's going to be that kind of personal touch, as opposed to like DMing you dick pics. You know what I mean? Like, that's
crazy.
I don't know how that's sexy
at all.
I don't understand how that's sexy. I'm like, that shit works, huh? Like, oh man, they go crazy for it. I'm like, okay.
I usually respond. My response to those is that all you got?
I've never gotten one, thank God.
I got one. Really? About before. Well, I got one when my husband and I were on a break. You heard that, right, husband? I don't need no questions. So. When we were on a break, I got a dick pic. It was some random dick pic, and I was like, "That's all you got?"
Yeah, that is
ego.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that provides stability.
Stability. That stability is not even in the exchange. Like he's clearly not there for stability.
At
Like
all.
that's what I'm saying. Like
He ain't going to therapy. He don't want the shoe on the other foot. It ain't none of that.
yeah, like this is what I have to offer.
And
What's
all
up?
I have to offer.
That's all. That's
And I'm
all.
offering it to Minnie. Because that dick pic was a group text.
Absolutely.
And it probably wasn't even his dick.
Wait, but if it wasn't, then it is now because some chicks be sharing that shit.
Ah!
God. Like, look what I got. Look what I got.
And this is the mess that is just pervasive right now. Like I don't want no parts of that. I have no interest in that. Like it's like I'd rather go to therapy. You know.
What do you have on your playlist?
Which one? I got playlists from like 20, 30 years now.
Nah, what do you play? Like, what's on your playlist right now? Like, let's say you about to go work out. Give me like top 3 songs that.
Oh man, lately it's been all about Public Enemy.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like
That's
I'm
a throwback.
I'm angry like politically.
That's why you drink it in the morning.
Yeah, like I'm angry politically right now.
Shit is crazy. Shit is crazy.
Public Enemy
Crazy.
And I'm tired of the stupid people. I'm really tired.
So many.
Michael, you just posted that shit yesterday, and I was like,
I'm really tired of the
real.
I'm not gonna. If you think I'm an elitist, then you're dumb. You're dumb, and you don't have to. You can be uneducated and not dumb.
That's facts. Because a lot of educated people are dumb.
Dumb as hell. They was out of the common sense line. They was out of the common sense line, let me tell you.
And there are uneducated people that are dumb. But all I'm saying is I'm very angry right now. So politically, Public Enemy has been feeding me in the last couple of months.
I can't believe I didn't follow you. I just followed you. Hopefully follow back.
And all this defending she was doing of you, all this Team Michael. You see?
No, because I follow him as an actor. Like I didn't follow him as a
but
at least I keep it 100. I keep it 100.
She has seen abstract projects.
Before we go though, you want to ask him, D?
No, you asked.
I mean, it's whatever. So obviously the podcast is Things Mommy Never Told Me. And we wanted to ask you if you can take a minute to think back. Do you wish that there was anything in either one of your parents would have sat with you and told you? As I mentioned before, we've had conversations like, damn, I really wish my mom would have talked to me about my period or my first sexual experience, or like, culturally it's like, you can't have a boyfriend. It's like this omission of the fact that you have a boyfriend, which in turn can turn into like teen pregnancy because you've never had the conversation and I'm hiding my boyfriend when everyone knows he's the boyfriend. So is there anything? And then obviously as you get older, you realize, damn, like I wish my mom would have had a conversation with me that life gets fucking harder the older you get, but is there anything you can think of that you really wish either one of your parents would have had with you in your teens or in your earlier years that you feel like you definitely want to make sure you have with your children?
No.
That's amazing.
Aww.
I mean, the whole time you've been asking this question, I've been thinking. And, obviously, both my parents have passed. So the only thing that I regret is not getting a chance to have my parents see me parent.
Oh.
That is the ultimate heartbreak of my life, in that my parents. My mom saw me raise my son for 2.5 years before she passed. But in terms of, I also remember that I would go to my mom and be like, I mean, this dude just be crying for like reasons I don't understand. Do you know what that cry means? And she'd be, Baby, it was like 40 years ago the last time I heard a baby cry. I don't remember. And she would just be like, I don't remember. And so I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So at that point, I kind of knew that, raising my kids, I was going to kind of be on my own. I was going to have to way. And I also feel like for my friends who do have their parents, part of the problem is what we were talking about earlier. Your parents your parents and your grandparents all believe that kids should be raised the way
The way they were raised.
So I got an uncle out here, and when he sees my kids, they're like, he's like, he, he can't understand like the leeway that we get. You know what I mean? Like what he defines as leeway, which is, you ain't slap his ass yet. He's like, man, send them over to me for the summer. Let me have them for
that's so funny that you say that, because my brother does the same thing with his kids. He was raised by my dad very strictly, right? And so he does that with my two younger nephews, and then my older nephew, that's his son, is in therapy.
Yeah.
And my brother doesn't know that. So I tell my nephew, maybe you should tell your father that you in therapy because of him. And then I tell my brother, like, can you let them kids be kids? Like, they're playing.
Yeah. There's something.
It's okay.
What I'm saying, like when you go to somebody who's 70 plus and ask them what they would do with a 3-year-old,
and then slap them.
That's on you.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to get an answer that's
good.
Be timely. That's going to be up to date. It's kind of like
patient parenting. Who? What?
Like whipping out a typewriter. It's probably going to be abusive. Like, I'm going to send you a letter.
Like, close the door. She'll stop.
Right. And it's like, yeah, see, so what we have now is we have different ways of doing things. And I've never spanked my kids. I've raised my voice, and sometimes I give them the character killer voice. Like the voice that you've heard me play in certain roles.
What about the look? What about the
100%. 100%. So the thing about my relationships are that I remember there were a couple of times early on in my relationship with my wife where I would act like I was in a scene, and she would catch me every time. And be like, stop. You're doing scene
yes,
work.
wifey, yes.
You're doing scene work. No.
That's
She's
awesome.
like, she could see through that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But my kids can't.
Oh, so you still got leverage.
And still like give them I'm really angry, really disappointed. You know, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But like, there is the beauty of the tool that I have right now. It just doesn't work with my wife, but it works with my kids. And for me, it's like I've never had a need to do that. You know what I mean? And the only time where I've been extremely angry is when it has to do with their life, the safety of their life. Like kids, my son used to go to a parking lot and all it took was one time for me to be like, no. You know what I mean? And whereby my father, who was in the Marines and was very much disciplinary, he would have pulled me, spanked me, and then perhaps gave me another one before I went to sleep that night, just so I would remember. Just so I would remember and not forget. I can look back and say he did what he had to do to keep me safe. Time is different. That was in the 70s. This is 2024. I need to make that adjustment.
Mhm.
I got to make that adjustment. It's different now. It's different. It doesn't mean kids don't need discipline. It just means that the way in which we go about it, perhaps, doesn't have to be physical every fucking time. It doesn't have to be, you can't expect your kids, to go to school and not bust somebody in the mouth if they get busted in the mouth at home.
Right.
Right.
And I don't want to lose that tuition money.
So
I mean, like, somebody punch you in the face, think twice before you get them back, because tuition is expensive. And the way my bank account works, it's tough.
At the beginning of this, I asked you, because I know if I don't ask it, people are going to say, "Why did you ask at the beginning?" And then didn't ask at the, they want to be producers and all this shit on our show too.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I said that I saw you on the Kelly, or whatever her name is, Kelly Clarkson show, and you said that you were one of the kids that stole. So I just want to know, why did you steal the candy? Was it because they stole your candy and you was like, it was a rite of passage? Like,
100%.
what was your reasoning for stealing somebody else's candy? Michael Ealy, that's not nice.
It was the ugly cycle of abuse. It happened to me, and so I did it.
That's horrible.
I didn't break the cycle.
But you said you came from a Huxtable upbringing.
No, another kid stole his candy.
Right,
So
but then that's what I'm saying.
Somebody stole my candy when I was little.
So you was like, I got to do it back.
They stole me. They stole my candy when I was little. They punked me and took my candy. So when I got big enough, I did it once, and I was like, I'm good. All
right. Oh, so you didn't do it repeatedly. Okay. I
wasn't a repeat offender of
You ain't a thief.
Nah, I just, because it didn't make me feel better.
You have more candy.
It didn't make me feel better. It didn't even make me feel better to do it. And I was like, oh, this is a stupid thing. This is stupid. Why do people, you know what I mean? Why you steal kids' candy? That's fucked up. You know what I mean? But I had to do it. I had to do it to learn that lesson. And I think, anybody who really knows me knows that it doesn't take much for me to learn a lesson.
Mm.
That's a characteristic that hopefully my wife could attest to, and my kids can attest to. And I know my friends who know me, they be like, yo, you learn quick. And I'm grateful for that.
Anthony Hopkins said you learn quick, because after he had a conversation with you, you learned quick.
And that next take was incredible.
Amazing.
It was incredible. The movie, that scene was cut from the movie, but that take was amazing.
Damn.
That take was amazing. Yes.
Wow. Listen, if you want to tell any of your Hollywood friends that are cool and dope like you, we don't want no narcissists on our show.
Yeah.
Give them Rocio's number. So they can come on the show, especially any women, because I know some that are cool.
Especially if they're women?
No, women and men, but some women, yeah. They tell them, hey, this podcast, they're kind of new, they're kind of dope, because we're dope. Come on. And, give us a little shine.
Absolutely. If this comes out okay.
Oh, no. On that note, thank you, Michael Ealy, for your damn time and your unprofessional.
I have been as professional as I can throughout this entire podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying do as I do. But if you enjoyed
being yourself, man.
If you enjoyed
this was dope meeting you through this process. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in person one day. But this is dope.
Absolutely. Listen, it is a dream of mine and I think I told Jessica this years ago, but I want to come to Thanksgiving in the Castro household in Connecticut.
Oh, it's a mess.
Because Jessica always told me, she's like, I don't know if you get out of there.
Oh.
Like this. I'd be like this. What I mean, like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, Michael, no, I want safety. I don't know if this is a good idea. You know what I mean? But I mean, you guys, your family, I got to come to Connecticut at least once to see what that is like.
Yeah.
If you hit up their family, I'm gonna tell you, come to mine. You're gonna be like,
Exactly.
this is the darkest Puerto Ricans I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, sure, y'all ain't black. Like, what's really going on? You got dreads? Like, what the fuck?
Yes.
Speaking of Puerto Ricans, I just got to give a shout out to the icon herself, since I'm on a Puerto Rican podcast. That is, the Miss Rosie Perez, who's a dear
Oh,
friend of mine,
Rosie.
Puerto Rican icon herself.
What?
So I had to give a shout out to Rosie because she taught me a lot. She taught me a lot about this business and life.
you should tell her to be on the podcast.
Oh, y'all gotta have her. Y'all haven't had. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Michael just opened his mouth, and you heard it here first. Michael Ealy is gonna get Rosie to be on this podcast.
And anybody else. I saw that little episode you did with Megan Good about some tweets and somebody wanted you to do a mammogram with your penis.
Wow.
Yeah. That was eye opening. Again, that is to
Crazy.
me the power of social media and how fearless we are on these devices.
Out of control.
I probably have met that person and they would never say that to me.
They would never say that to you in person.
Or would they?
I've heard some wild shit.
What was the wildest thing? What was the shit? You don't even have to say where they were. What was the wildest thing you've ever heard come out of a woman? Like, just.
I just came.
Oh,
just by seeing you?
I was like this. I don't. Oh. That was my reaction. I wish every time I play that moment back, I wish it could be like as cool as a fan. Like, okay. I wish I could play it like that. Instead, my reaction was, huh?
oh. And then she was like, and now I just went dry.
And now it's just, and just like that, I ruined the whole thing.
It would have been dope if you would have been like, do it again.
Yeah, right. Like in my head, I really wish I was the guy who could have been like, I know. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I wish I was that guy. Instead, I was Urkel about the whole thing. What? I came where?
No, that's awful.
What about a man? Has a man ever been mad at you because their wife was like obsessing over you? Did a man ever come up to you and be like, "Oh, so you're Michael Ealy," you know, that type of energy?
I'm gonna put this out there right now.
Oh shit.
Dudes do some of the strangest, like the women that have said things to me. I swear to you, it's the guys who
I believe it
say the most weird shit. Like they like, yo, my wife loves you, man. My wife loves you, man. Like, I mean, you ain't gonna fuck her, but you know, like,
oh my god,
you at least like give her like some love and shit, and take a picture with her and shit. You know, bitch, take the picture with the nigga. Shit, I know you love him. Shit, you been, you know, and I'll be like this.
You're like, blink twice if you need help.
Why are you guys talking like this in front of me?
To each other. That should happen
to each other. Like, how is this going down? But like, dudes always, you know, for years, dudes have been like, even if their wife isn't around, they're like, yo, can I get a picture for my wife? And sometimes you'd be like, is it really for your wife? And sometimes you'd be like, I mean, yeah, if that's gonna make her happy.
Right.
Okay. You know, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't think I've ever run into a dude and been like, my wife loves you.
Right.
I get your picture. You know what I mean? And you know, like, I think, you know, I remember one time we were in New Orleans and my wife was really, really, really like blown away by this musician. And afterwards, we went up and we met him. I went and met him. And I was like, yo, my man, like we had such a great vibe. And he was a huge fan. So I was like, yo, can you meet my wife? And my wife, I introduced him to my wife, and my wife was like, "Oh my God, you're amazing," da 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 da. And she was really, really blown away by that. And, you know, she did the right thing by me that night, which was crazy because she was just like, I didn't get insecure about that shit or anything like that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it was just like kind of simple. It was just like kind of simple. Like, he's human, you're human. We don't have to make this worse than it is. Worse than it
Michael,
is.
thank you so much for your time. Thank
Thank
you.
you guys. Listen, I'm gonna go do a Hollywood lunch now. I got to go do a Hollywood. Oh my God, I can see you guys. You guys
We're
look
gonna
beautiful
send
today.
Michael. We're gonna send you something for you to drop on your thing. Will you put it on your story?
Fuck
Like
yeah.
go watch this episode with these amazing women.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna.
I'll be hashtag I was hilarious
You
in
were.
this podcast.
We all were hilarious.
I was hilarious.
I'm gonna.
Gracias for listening to Cositas Mommy Never Told Me. We hope you loved this episode. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and share Cositas Mommy Never Told Me on all your social channels. Todas las redes sociales. And don't forget, if you want in on the real tea and see all of our reactions to the craziness, watch this episode on YouTube. ¡Qué bochinche!